Devin the Dream Haney has the best opportunity, the best chance of all these fighters to be the best fighter of this generation. Yeah, let's talk.
Straighter, not roundhouse right hand.
And that's what we've been talking about, the straight shot. The one where he gets leverage on it.
I don't want to kill somebody
back
for
a little
few
bit.
seconds.
Nah, I want a body on my record.
Now, I want to see you fight motherfuckers. I do. All right, I'm with you. I'm with you. As long as you're trying to fight the great, the best competition.
Welcome to the graveyard. Click the link if you dare to. Bury you alive, I'm prepared to. Welcome to the graveyard. You get your sources from clowns, so when you come around, we'll hear you. Welcome to the graveyard. Click the link if you dare to. Bury you alive, I'm prepared to. Welcome to the graveyard. You get your sources from clowns, so when you come around, we'll hear you. Yo, it's the best, fight the best. If you ain't with the moto, just click the link, bitch, and get buried like the rest. It ain't gonna work how you want it. These trolls already tried, too many come but don't leave. So if you here, you gotta die. I'm spitting straight facts. These bitches crying cause they hate that. The LDBC's the top topic, bitch, take that. We the ones that bring the truth to these fans. So why you hate, I'ma laugh and keep counting these bands. Welcome to the graveyard. Click the link, get prepared to. Bury you alive, I'm prepared to. Welcome to the graveyard. You get your sources from clowns, so when you come around, we don't hear you. Welcome to the graveyard. Click the link if you dare to. Bury you alive, I'm prepared to. Welcome to the graveyard. You get your sources from clowns, so when you come around, we don't hear you.
Welcome to the graveyard.
Devin the Dream Haney is in a position to be the greatest fighter of this generation. Oh, BF, you're capping. You're capping for Devin. You're capping. I can't believe you're capping. What do you mean Devin be the greatest fighter of this generation? Doesn't even make any sense. Devin's not even good. Devin's an email champion. Devin hasn't done anything. Devin blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, let's break it down then. Let's break it down. Devin Haney is his own boss. He can go to any network he wants to. Those are facts. Devin Haney has a network backing him that can put up the bread for any fight that he wants. That's a fact. It's called his own. Devin the Dream Haney is 23 years old. He's got plenty of time. And he's a WBC champion right now. Those are facts. Devin the Dream Haney, with that backing him, his opponents have made the biggest amount of bread that they've made fighting anybody. They made it against him. Didn't matter who else they fought. They made their biggest bag versus Devin. Facts. So when you put that together, that Devin has, oh, by the way, Devin is also looked at as chinny by the haters. He's looked at as vulnerable, not good by the haters. So the haters would potentially be pushing other fighters to fight him. I mean, that's a potential. Right now, they're not. Right now, they're just blatantly making bullshit up for fighters to duck this man and not giving him no credit at all. But whatever. With the fact that he has that machine behind him, with the fact that he is his own boss, with the fact that the machine behind him is paying his opponents big bread, Devin the Dream Haney is in the position that Floyd Mayweather was in after Floyd Mayweather left Top Rank. And he's in it right now at 23 years old. So let's look at the opponents, because the opponents is what's going to make or break this man. The opponents is what will make him the greatest fighter of this generation. Let's look at the opponents, why don't we? So, at 135, Devin the Dream Haney can fight George Kambosos, which is the fight that George Kambosos is saying he's only fighting Devin Haney or Vasyl Lomachenko in Australia. That is what George Kambosos is saying. He's full of shit, because I already told y'all that Vasyl Lomachenko is going to go to he'll go to Australia to fight Kambosos, but they're not giving any ESPN money. Kambosos can keep all of the Australian money. In Top Rank, and Lomachenko is going to keep all of the ESPN money. And since ESPN is the machine behind Lomachenko, and there is no machine behind Kambosos, then that means Kambosos is the B-side, because the bread will be made on ESPN, not in Australia. So that fight is more than likely not going to happen. The fight that's going to happen is Devin the Dream Haney versus Cambozo. And if Cambozo does fight Lomachenko, then he's blatantly ducking Devin. Devin, hold the conversation. But for the sake of this conversation, let's just say that Cambozo does fight Devin, which is the fight that should happen. So that makes Devin the Dream Haney undisputed at 135. Undisputed. He's the undisputed champion. At 135, Devin the Dream Haney can have two fights. Two fights at 135. Vasyl Lomachenko in his title defense of undisputed. And then Ryan Garcia in his final title defense of undisputed. Now, he can have that. More than likely, he'll only have one. More than likely, he'll only have one because Lomachenko will be made his mandatory for the WBO, and then Devin will fight Lomachenko and then move up. But he could fight Ryan as well. So that's two fights. That's the potential for two. But he doesn't need Ryan at all. Just that one fight against Vasyl Lomachenko will put him ahead of everybody it will put him ahead of all those guys down there. All of them. Because then he would have fought George Kambosos, who beat Teofimo Lopez, who beat Vasyl Lomachenko, and then came back and beat Vasyl Lomachenko himself. Because Vasyl Lomachenko is looked at as the gold standard at 135. So there will be no refuting his greatness, no disputing it. There will be nothing. This man will be the Nick. That's the man at 135. Devin the Dream Haney. But that's not even where his greatness becomes solidified. His greatness becomes solidified up at 140. Yeah, because up at 140, you have fights that he can have. So when Devin the Dream Haney becomes undisputed, and gets that Vasyl Lomachenko gets that feather in his cap, and then moves up to 140, he can fight Jose Zapata. Because Josh Taylor will not be there. Josh Taylor will be at 147. All right? Devin the Dream Haney can fight Jose Zapata for the vacant WBC title. And if he doesn't fight Jose Zapata for the vacant WBC title, he can fight the winner of Jose Zapata, Jose Ramirez, and Regis Prograis. He can fight the winner of those three, right? The winner of those three, because that is going to be when Josh Taylor moves up. Jose Zapata, Jose Ramirez, and Regis Prograis is going to be one of those three, or two of those three, that fight for the vacant WBC title, which will mean Devin Haney will have his opportunity as the undisputed champion to pick any and become the mandatory for anybody he wants. So he can become the mandatory to the winner of Jose Zapata versus Jose Ramirez or Regis Prograis, whatever three that is. He become the mandatory to Liam Paro or Arnold Barboza or Jose Zapata, because it's going to be one of those three, because Jack Collateral is not going to be there because Josh Taylor is going to destroy that man. All right, so Jack Collateral won't be there. So it'll be 2, 3, and 4, Liam Paro, Arnold Barboza, and Jose Zapata. One of those three. So now we have Jose Zapata in two of those, right? The WBC and WBO. That will make Devin Haney the mandatory to either the WBO or the WBC. And if he goes the IBF route, he'll be the mandatory to either this Jeremias Ponce, Subriel Matias, and Liam Paro. I believe Subriel is going to beat the shit out of all those dudes. So that would leave Devin the Dream Haney the mandatory to Subriel Matias for the IBF title. That is an amazing fight because Subriel is a motherfucking killer. And if Devin is to beat Subriel for the IBF title, he is the dude. If Devin is to beat Regis Prograis, Jose Ramirez, or Jose Zapata for the WBC title, he is the dude. If Devin is to beat Arnold Barboza, Liam Paro, or Jose Zapata for the vacant WBO strap, he is the dude. All right? Now, we know with the WBA, they be doing some hoe-ass shit where they be having a super champion, blah, blah, blah. So the reality of it is the winner, once Josh Taylor moves up, the winner between Alberto Pueblo, Ishmael Barossa, or O'Hara Davis, which I believe will be O'Hara Davis. If O'Hara Davis is to beat these guys, and become the WBA champion, he should just be the WBA champion. That's it. It should not be a super champion. The only way he should be a super champion is if you are unified, right? So that would leave Devin the Dream Haney as either the WBO, IBF, WBC, or WBA champion. That means he moves up, he becomes the mandatory to one of those guys, right? So he would have had to have beaten either O'Hara Davis, Jose Zapata, Jose Ramirez, Regis Porgray, Subadao Matias, Arnold Barboza, or Jose Zapata or Liam Paro. He would have had to have beaten one of those guys. All those guys are very good names. He would have had to have beaten one of those to have a belt at 140. Now, at 140, let's just say he fights Jose Zapata, Jose Ramirez winner, and becomes the WBC champion. Well, his first title defense of his WBC belt will be against Regis Porgray. Yeah, so you beat Jose Zapata or Jose Ramirez winner, whoever that is, you beat them, right? You are now the WBC champion. Your mandatory is Regis Porgray. That's your mandatory. But before you fight your mandatory, you unify. You unify with Subadao Matias. You beat Subadao. That in itself is a motherfucking feat because Subadao is a killer. So that in itself, if Devin beats Subadao, if Devin becomes a WBC champion at 140 and then beats Subadao to unify the WBC and IBF, that's a statement. A huge statement. Because Subadao is a killer. He ain't no bum by no stretch of the means. He is a beast. Right? And then follows up, defends his unified IBF and WBC title against Regis Porgray and beats him. Insanity. Insanity. The names are there for him to fight. Right? And then after beating Regis Porgray to defend his unified IBF and WBC title, he then unifies with either O'Hara Davis or Arnold Barboza. O'Hara Davis for the WBA or Arnold Barboza in the WBO. Unifies with them. 3-belt unification with either one. So then after unifying with one of those guys, after unifying with, I believe, Arnold Barboza. That's who I believe will be the WBO champion, Arnold Barboza. So after unifying the WBC and the IBF with Arnold Barboza, he will go back to the IBF to defend his IBF title against Montana Love. Yeah, to defend his IBF, his now unified WBC, IBF, and WBO. He's already defended his WBC for Regis Porgray. He just unified the WBO now. Now he has to go back and defend his IBF. He goes back to the IBF and he defends his IBF title against Montana Love. Right? So now he has fought, he has unified 3 belts. He has beat Regis Porgray, Montana Love, and Arnold Barboza. Now at this time, his WBC mandatory by this time should be Gary Antoine Russell. That should be his mandatory at this time. Because Gary Antoine is going to be number 5 after he destroys Victor Postol, or at least top 10. But he won't be ahead of Regis Porgray. Now he's moved up, right? He's been undisputed again at 135 and defended it against Vasyl Lomachenko. Moved up to 140, became the WBC champion by beating the winner of Jose Zapata versus Jose Ramirez. Unified that against Subadao Matias, unified the WBC and IBF against Subadao Matias, right? Came back, defended his mandatory against Regis Porgray, his WBC mandatory, because Regis is ranked higher in the WBC than he is the other ones. So he will be the mandatory. All right? So then came back, fought, unified again against Arnold Barboza, unified the IBF, the WBC, and the WBO against Arnold Barboza. Came back and defended his unified 3 belts against Montana Love. Defended the IBF strap against Montana Love. The IBF belt will be next in the shoot for the mandatory. Right? And then picked up the mandatory in the WBC. Gary Antoine Russell. So he defended against Montana Love, beat Montana Love, then had to defend the next one in the shoot will be the WBO strap He has to defend. He has to the next one will be the WBO to get that mandatory out of the way. Then the WBC mandatory will be after that. But if you look at the WBO rankings, right? He should have an easier fight or an easy fight with one of the guys, either a rematch with somebody he already beat, or maybe this dude Jack Collateral might come back into the picture, you know what I'm saying, and he'll get that fight under his belt. So then he defends the unified his WBO strap for his mandatory for the WBO, which would then open him up. It would open it up now because he would have to fight Gary Antoine for his WBC mandatory will be coming back around. But it would open it up. He'd had time to unify the WBO, IBF, and WBC with whoever is a WBA champion. A Sandor Bologna might be there, who beat Mikey Garcia. O'Hara Davis might still be there, right? So now you become undisputed at 2 weight classes. This is your second weight class against either Sandor Bologna or O'Hara Davis. Preferably O'Hara Davis because you can become undisputed in the UK. Yeah. You can go to the UK and become undisputed. You can touch bases in that market. Grab that shit up. This is your second undisputed against O'Hara Davis in the UK. Then you go back and you defend undisputed against Gary Antoine Russell. He will be your WBC mandatory. You defend undisputed against Gary Antoine. That resume in itself is insane. Fucking insane. And if you are to come out on top, of that, unscathed, unbeaten, you come out on top of that, you can move to weight at that time or have one more defense against Teofimo Lopez at 140. Yeah, you can have one more defense. You can defend your WBC mandatory against Gary Antoine and then defend undisputed against Teofimo Lopez at 140. And either stay there and reign or move up to 147, which is a glory division. By the time you do all that, if he is to be successful, which all those fights are winnable. I don't give a fuck what y'all say. Every last one of those fights are winnable for Devin. Every one of them. Whether y'all agree or not, I don't give a fuck. I know for a fact this man has sparred killers. Killers. Right? And some of the names that I mentioned, he sparred and beat them up. FYI, I'm not going to put no names out there, but some of the names that I've mentioned, he's already sparred and beat up. Y'all niggas be like, oh, no, he didn't. But I have proof of it. Whatever. Not putting that out in the ether. I know what happened. But past all that, if he is to become successful, if he is to remain successful by beating those names that I just said, becoming a 2-time undisputed champion, and then moving to 147, a glory division, Errol Spence won't be there. Terrence Crawford won't be there. Jerron Boots Ennis won't be there. Virgil Ortiz will fuck around and be the only one there. Jerron Boots Ennis will fuck around and be at 150 by that time. 154. Maybe even 160. The man said he's going to 68 eventually. Right? So, Canelo Alvarez will be aged, probably beaten by this time by several fighters, retired, whatever the case may be. Errol Spence will fuck around and be at 160. The Charlos will probably be on their way out the game. Demetrius Andrade will probably still be somewhere hoping to get a Canelo fight. You know what I'm saying? Motherfucking, all the names. Terrence Crawford will fuck around and be at 154, claiming PBC don't want to fight him still. Or whatever the fuck. I'm pound for pound. I was pound for pound at 140. I was undisputed at 140. So here I am at 154. So Jermell Charlo or Errol Spence or whoever the fuck is up there that has belts, y'all got to give me 60% in my favor. Because I was undisputed at 140. Nigga, that shit is not going to carry to every fucking weight class. But whatever. 147 will be wide open, right? So you'll fuck around and have someone still there. Maybe Virgil Ortiz will still be there. Yeah, maybe Virgil Ortiz. So you'll fuck around and have a Devin Haney versus a Virgil Ortiz for some belt, maybe a defense of Virgil Ortiz's belt or the unified champion Virgil Ortiz or whatever, but you'll have that at 147. And if Devin is to become successful there, he will be looked at as the greatest fighter in our generation. Or if he's not looked at as that, we can make the argument. Because you can look at the man's resume and say he's a 2-time undisputed champion, and with the names that I mentioned on his resume, the man's still unbeaten, still undefeated. I would challenge anybody on how he isn't the best fighter in our generation. BFTB. Shout out to the mighty LDBC. And I'm out.